We're getting ready to visit and investigate an abandoned fruit orchard that used to be part of a farm that was in the same family for at least 4 generations. Due to certain events that took place throughout the course of the lives of all 4 generations of this family, the farm, most of it was sold. But this abandoned fruit orchard was donated to the local government. Why, you ask? So that no individuals could ever own it and experience the same things these family members experienced over the course of nearly 100 years. I'm sure you noticed the old bucket behind me, long ago left behind. Bottom's rotted out of it, remnants of another old bucket. I'm sure they used to use to water the fruit trees and the nut trees. Here's where the well was. The gentleman who told me this sensational story came up with me the first time to make sure I knew where that was so I wouldn't step in it. And up here, you see the clearing. This is where the orchard stood. Still some old trees stand. This is where we're going. This is where the horrors took place. Before we even get up to the orchard, I want to point out something else. This is an original stone foundation of a home that stood here at least 100 years before our family, who are the key subject matter of this video and the investigation, lived here. This property goes way back for hundreds of years. I was approached by a young man not too long ago who told me this story. I was trying to figure out a polite, kind way to kind of tell this guy I wasn't really interested in what he had to say, and I certainly wasn't interested in going back to his family's former property until he said something that I couldn't ignore. He was talking about all these strange things that happened up here, and as you can tell, we've made it to the abandoned fruit orchard. Here we have a pear tree, peach tree. There's several apple trees back here behind me, and we will be heading down deeper into the orchard to a particular location this young man told me about. But what made his story so interesting to me is when he mentioned how one of the odd things that took place up here over the course of several generations was when people would smell sweet smelling cigar smoke, very similar to the smoke from a Swisher Sweet cigar. That piqued my interest for a very particular reason. We're going to talk about that reason as we go a little bit deeper into this orchard and see what we may or may not see as we head down through there. I've researched the Bigfoot Sasquatch phenomena for years. There's a particular strand of potential Bigfoot Sasquatch indigenous to the Philippine Islands known as Capri. I have literally written the book on Capri. Capri is believed to be a Bigfoot Sasquatch type creature who is interdimensional, who has the ability to go in and out of a veil, if you will. Sightings of the Capri are often preceded with people smelling the scent of sweet cigar smoke, as I mentioned earlier, because the legend has it that Capri loves to smoke sweet-smelling cigars, and he loves lovely young Filipina ladies. He kidnaps 18, 19, 20-year-old Filipinas along the beaches, along the jungle. He takes them back into his the other side of the veil, into his domain, where he has this large harem. Is this just more myth? The Bigfoot Sasquatch version from the Philippines? In my research, I found that almost every major civilization around the world has a Bigfoot Sasquatch type creature in their folklore. thought I heard a growl. There's, of course, the North American Bigfoot Sasquatch, the Filipino Capri. In China, this creature is known as the Yeren. In Australia, it's the Yowie. And of course, we all know of the Yeti of Nepal, the abominable snowman. And even our cousins over in England have a what they call the large hairy man, a very similar creature that stems back to the 1600s that haunts the moors. It's approximately 8 feet tall, 800 pounds. Now, what's even more interesting is many of these stories predate known world travel. So we've got to ask ourselves, how could it be just a coincidence that all 4 corners of the globe have these particular creatures in their folklore and in their legend? So here's the kicker, and this is why I continue to listen to this young man's story. When he mentioned the smell of sweet cigar smoke being smelled by folks in the orchard up here just before they believed to have seen strange things, I asked him if it was okay to ask about his family history. And he looked at me and he said, "Sure, what is it you want to know?" And I said, "Is there any Filipino ancestry in your bloodline?" And he said, "Well, actually, my great-grandmother was from the Philippines. Turns out his great-grandfather was a World War II veteran. He served in the Pacific Theater. He actually was in the Philippines helping liberate the islands from the Japanese imperialistic army. He met this young woman, fell in love with her, and after the war made his way back to the Philippines to get her and brought her here to Virginia to marry her." Very similar story to my own. Of course, I wasn't in World War II. I was in the Philippines, fell in love with a beautiful young Filipina. As you know, if you follow the channel, brought her over here. And so anyway, the guy said that his great-grandmother always claimed that the Capri followed her through the veil and would appear in the fruit orchard trying to capture her. She had this, what he said was a crazy story of being chased around on the island when she was a teenager and in her early 20s, right around the time she met this guy's great-granddad. And it was on the edge of a hacienda there where there were banana trees, coconut trees, papaya trees, mango trees. And then it started happening again once she came here and they settled on their property here in Central Virginia. It started happening in the fruit orchard. Well, I haven't seen or smelled anything out of the ordinary yet. So I'm just walking around a trail that the deer seem to have kept beating down here around the orchard. See if I can see anything from other angles. I really have no plans when I come out and do these things. As far as like no specific way of trying to see what may or may not exist. Somehow it just seems, as you know, if you've watched many of these videos, the things that may or may not exist out here just kind of come to me. So I think I might just go off here and sit in the edge of the woods somewhere and eat a couple snacks and take a break and look and listen for a while and record as I do. I mentioned earlier that I thought I heard a growl. I think I just did again, off that way. But originally the first growl I thought I heard came from this area. I'm on the southern edge of the fruit orchard. Seems to be twisted and broken off at about 4 feet up. And this is right here at the southern entrance of the fruit orchard. Either I was dreaming or I smell cigar smoke. But we don't smell in dreams, do we?